Hi, folks, and welcome to the Irish Wrestling Podcast. Joining myself and Mark again for another preview of this massive Scrappermania weekend. Today, we are going to be focusing on the aftermath show from Belfast. If you missed the last two shows, they are available on YouTube. Go and check them out. We did Dublin last night. Myself and Mark did Wolverhampton on Monday. They are there. Go and have a look. But tonight, we'll be focusing on Belfast. But start off, Mark. How's things?
Good. I'm dying of hay fever, allergic reaction. You haven't bored me to tears, just in case anybody thinks I've been crying. No, everything's good. There's an exciting week of wrestling ahead. Obviously, the comedy show tomorrow night, Wolves on Friday, Dublin Saturday, Belfast Sunday. Unfortunately, won't be able to make all four. But listen, it's incredibly exciting position for Irish wrestling over the last couple of years. They've expanded to a 3-night weekend, and they're expanding to a 4-night kind of festival. The early part of August. It's pretty cool. It's a really cool space to be in for Ireland and for Irish wrestling, rather. Given what other shows are happening around the continent as well, with WXW and Rev Pro and other places as well. So, no, listen, it's really exciting. It's really promising. Looking forward to it all.
We're in the boom period, as they're saying. There seems to be that wrestling boom going on, especially with WWE, AEW. Are we seeing the boom here as well? Like, is that like we're seeing the stadium is as good as sold out, more than what Mox actually did, which is surprising, really surprising.
I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's one. I think this has been marketed better. This event, I think there's general awareness around this event better than previous events. So between be it whoever is working behind the scenes, like there's a lot of these stadium shows that have come and gone that like is posted on Twitter, but like Twitter's a really small audience. Like it is. It's not everybody. And when you go to these shows, half the people who go to these shows are kids and families as well. So that takes up, say, a good 3/4 of people who generally attend these things. So people who are wrestling fans, general wrestling fans, or just casual WWE kid fans who watch on YouTube or whatever, their parents will be bringing them to this. And given the summer holidays and whatnot, that does contribute to it. But the overall marketing and budgeting for this show, as exciting as it is, it's not the best quality of show, I don't think, as OTT have done in the past number of years. For a stadium show, there's been some unbelievable stadium shows in terms of quality, narratives, and everything going into it, or bigger stars as well going into it, but haven't necessarily had the same audience. So there's a number of different factors. Like there's a few different stadium shows in the past where it feels like it's just those who know, the rest don't know, and you kind of turn up and hope for the best. And there's always it can feel like maybe people take it for granted that there'll be a big crowd at these shows and these events, and maybe they don't have to market and promote. But there's been a huge drive. Like I know you've done Trojan work behind the scenes in terms of contacting major media outlets, making sure there's an awareness. Like Joe's doing radio appearances and more. Like that's all part of the course. And like listen, Joe's generally like a one-man army trying to what a promotion, organize here, there, and everywhere with everything and every person, as well as running a wrestling school. So like a lot of it, nearly all of it, falls on his shoulders. To have people like yourselves and other people helping out in that front is a massive uplift, and as directly reflects in the amount of tickets sold.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how Wolverhampton is doing. I believe it's doing okay. I'm not sure if they're at sellout point. I'm not sure if it's going to sell out before Friday. We are 2 days out from that. But as far as I know, they are in a very good shape. The Wolverhampton crowd can be a bit of a strange crowd because as we spoke about on Monday, it's not a lot of them might not know what's going on in ODT. A lot of them might not follow it. They're just there because there's a wrestling show on. So a lot of people are there just for a bit of wrestling and a gargle and a night out, So it's a bit of a weird one where I don't know if they're coming for the attractions. I don't know if they're coming because they followed the show or not. But as far as I know, they're on a good course. And Belfast usually does well. I reckon that's doing well. The only other thing is that the comedy show, if you haven't got your tickets for the comedy show, it's tomorrow night. There's a 20% discount, as far as I know, on the last few tickets. It's in Lost Lane, Dublin, Nassau Street, tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Very central location. It's going to be a great night. Really looking forward to it. If you haven't got your tickets, get them now. Myself and Mark will be there, so you can come and give us some abuse if you want. Just mind Mark, he's a little bit tetchy. He has a bit of hay fever as well, so he might snap. But yeah, so we are here to talk about Aftermath. So we looked at the other two. Obviously, the scale of this show isn't as big as the other one. There's no point skirting around that. It is a smaller venue. There is no Nick Nemeth on this show, but there is everybody else. So it still has like a decent caliber of performers on it, you know. What's your overall take of the card and what's going on in Belfast?
It's pretty good. I mean, in terms of when you go to the Belfast shows and the hotel up there, like a lot of the time you are conscious there's a lot of families and kids there as well, and you can generally cater to that. So when you've got the likes of Danhausen coming over, that should translate over to that kind of family-friendly atmosphere as well. I think it'll be a brilliant show. It's cool to see like a lot of young talents who haven't necessarily made a name for themselves as of yet getting a shot. We've got like the likes of Mike Bailey appearing as well, which is going to be incredible. He's TNA Cruiserweight champion. Danhausen, obviously got the kind of hometown favourites in Damo and Corvin. You're going to have Trent Seven. Assuming you're going to have Barry, Sam, a few other people involved as well. So no, listen, it's shaping up for an exciting card for a Belfast show as well. So like matches like Big Damo, Renzo Rose will be very good. Be a welcome change, I suppose, for Renzo, given he'll be likely in some sort of comedy-based match the night before. No, some cool like Terry Thatcher versus Speedball is going to be brilliant. In particular, that's probably going to be probably the match most people will be looking forward to, in my opinion. And there's for other people who are kind of really entrenched in Irish wrestling who might not necessarily be aware of who's who. You've got the likes of Cian Noonan versus LJ Cleary. So like if you're just an OTT fan, you're not going around to Hard Knocks and all these shows around the country. Cian Noonan versus LJ Cleary will be very exciting, very high flying, very acrobatic. And obviously in the main event, then you've what's currently scheduled for Trent Seven versus a man like Dries.
Well, I will stop you there. Renzo put a post out there today, maybe. I can't actually keep up with the amount of stuff that's going out. And fair play to everybody getting all the likes of the promos and stuff done. Love this time of year getting to see all them. But Renzo put up a thing saying main event for his match with Damo. So I'm not sure if he's just calling himself the main event or if he's saying that his match is going to be the main event. I would probably guess that it will be the main event. It's been the one with the biggest build going into this show. So I don't think it would be surprised if it wasn't.
Well, if you've got Trent Seven versus a man like Dries advertised, right? And that's going to currently advertise for the world title. You assume that will, if the night before a world championship changes, does that then Trent still face a man like Dries? Or what happens then?
I presume that if Trent isn't the champion, the match still goes ahead as a non-title match. Right. Would be my presumption.
As opposed to say,
replacing him
for Barry.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of that'll probably be dictating it. Like if the match isn't going to change aside from the title stipulation, Renzo versus Damo would make most sense as the main event, given kind of Damo's the hometown hero. I
think just knowing that the fact that the NLW Championship, well, again, we don't even know that, don't we not? Because there's an NLW Championship match the night before as well. So I was going to say the fact that we know that's going to be a championship match, but again, we don't know what's going to happen there. So, it is like there is also, I know we spoke about this before. On the other cards, there's a lot of singles matches on this card, and I think there is some wiggle room for some change, should that be necessary. Yeah,
we got that weird 4-man match as well, or 4-person match rather. You got Session Moff Martina, Dan Barry, thus versus Danhausen, which will obviously just be car crash comedy really. There'll be stuff with the bag, there'll be stuff with teeth. Dan Barry will do stuff. Maybe do a comedy set. Martina will drink. So like that'll be a variety kind of show match. Like I mean, there is a lot of singles matches, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. If anything, I think the more singles matches with consequences is always a good thing. And it's also good for like the likes of Luke Frehel against Scotty Davis, who's getting really opportunity to showcase himself in a singles position rather than being stuck into a forced tag team or I don't know, like a 6-man tag or a 4-way or whatever. Like this is a bigger opportunity for somebody like him. Something that's very well earned as well. So it'll give the Belfast audience an opportunity to see something entirely new and fresh also.
Yeah, so let's kick off and look at the matches as we break them down. So Luke Frell against Scotty Davis. We did speak about this over the last couple of days.
Scott Davis, sorry,
as the poster tells us.
He's an adult now, so he's got to drop the Y.
Yeah, someone said, was it Jerry was saying that he's Scot in Belfast and Scotty everywhere else?
That would be really weird if that's the case.
Yeah, but for someone like Luke Frettel, like this is absolutely a massive opportunity, and for someone who's like taking on someone as qualified and the caliber of Scotty Davis as well, it's a massive test for him, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it is and it isn't, but he's also somebody he's going to be incredibly familiar with in terms of like working with in the school for guts of a year, day in, day out as well. So I mean, there will be that level of familiarity. Obviously, in front of an audience is a different kettle of fish, but yeah, no, I think it's probably somebody probably in a similar age bracket. And Scotty's like he's a consummate pro. He'll be able to guide anybody through a match at this stage. Luke Frettel, yeah, like he's a lovely guy. He's somebody who's been slaving away in the background for a long time, leader of the ringside crew, making sure people get up when they're supposed to get up and move when they're supposed to move. He's got terrible knee injuries and hamstring injuries. I've been texting him during the week. I want him to get Scotty in like a leg, like kind of a. He's spent so much time training his hamstrings, right? Because he's had so many injuries. Got on my head now. I want Luke Frettel to get like Scotty in like a chokehold with his hamstring and like squeeze and just like make him tap it that way, like the iron hamstring or something. Just some sort of maneuver like that.
Because he's trained it so much, like.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want the strongest hamstrings in the Midlands to come to the forefront. I think it's a brilliant position for him. That's exactly what these kind of Belfast shows, these aftermath shows are for. It's kind of giving people a spotlight, a different kind of taste or a different pace of match as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just gonna take a beat here because we do have a guest to add in. Mark's not too pleased here. But I'd like to welcome Mr. Joe Cabray onto the stream. Joe, how's things?
Good. Is my audio and
coming through fine? Yeah,
it's working fine anyway.
You have a great color, Joe. You've been outside, have you?
I have been outside a little bit.
Good man. Okay, good man. Fair play.
Obviously big week, Joe, coming up. You must be up the walls. 4 shows.
It's a lot. I've done 5 in a row, but 4 and comedy gig is kind of a special one as well. So yeah, it's quite hectic lately.
Yeah, what's it like taking on the comedy gig? A little bit different, outside the comfort zone a bit?
I've done it once before, so it's not too foreign. But it's been a challenge, but I like a challenge. I like to try different things as well. So
yeah, absolutely. We were talking there just before you came on about we're actually not sure how things are going. We know that the ticket sales for Dublin are really good. I think you were saying that there's less than 100 left.
Yeah. And I checked it there today as well. There's probably a little bit over. I think there's like 115 for Wolverhampton, which is amazing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we were saying we weren't too sure what it was. What's that capacity? 1,000? Yeah, that's really good, because we were saying that the Wolverhampton crowd's a bit of a strange one, because we don't know if they're watching regularly or if they're just out for a night out or out for the piss, or there's less than on, so they're coming. So. But
I think the card is very much dedicated to the audience of Burt Rest. So I think you can easily follow along. It's a pretty stacked card. So it's
an incredible card. Like if you look at it almost feels like a super indie card. Like you look around the globe at different times of the year, you might see a WrestleCon before a WrestleMania, and you'll have people from several different companies competing on the one card, or ex-talents from WWE or whatnot, and you've kind of managed to assemble that. For a show like Wolverhampton, where you're kind of outsourcing to a degree, and you're relying on an external audience to kind of pick up their own awareness, like how much marketing or thought kind of goes into that when you're trying to drive that to kind of ticket sales?
It's a combination of different things. We try different things. We went back to doing old school postering for Wolverhampton, which is we don't really usually do anymore. And then just trying different avenues of social media and Google ads and see what works, because it's kind of hard to promote an event when you're not actually in the country. But we've did it several times. We've done it a fair few times now at Wolverhampton, and we've also done it a few times with Italy as well. So yeah, we're kind of used to kind of promoting shows that are outside our country, essentially.
Fair play. And there's so many different logistical pieces involved in that as well. Obviously, getting people to and from, say, people from America, you're going to get them to Ireland, then fly them to Wolves, then bring them back to Ireland. So, how many weeks in advance are you having to plan all these routes, plan all these hotels, and keeping different personalities and maybe egos happy at the same time, like having to get a 6 a.m. flight to Ryanair, they may not want to do that. So there's a lot of different juggling balls in that kind of sense.
Yeah, it's massively challenging, especially when you're not from the Wolverhampton or even Birmingham area. So yeah, it's all just logistics. That's why I don't really have so much time to write shows anymore, because there's just so many logistics that you have to get over the line to make these shows happen. But yeah, as I said, we have the comedy night on the Thursday, and then a few of the guys are flying to Wolverhampton for the show on Friday, and then back to Dublin Saturday morning to get the Dublin show done, and then on to Belfast on Sunday. So it's a massive undertaking. But I've been doing this for 10 years, so I hope I have all my ducks aligned anyway.
Yeah,
did you just put sleep on the back burner as well when it comes to these weekends, show? Like, where do you fit in the time to sleep? Because there's a lot of travel in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, the last time, I think I was telling some of the lads, the last time I did the 5 in the row, I had to pull in by the side of the road and just walk along the side of the road. I was just so tired. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, and you can't even sleep on Monday because you still have, to get people back to airports. You still have to, pay wages and pay whatever bills you have to do. So it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday before I can finally unwind.
Sorry, go on, Colin.
Sorry, I was just going to say, does it take some of the enjoyment out as well? Because like for us fans, we're looking at some of these and we're like, that show looks stacked. That Wolverhampton card, the comedy night, I'm really looking forward to it. The stadium, the stories running into that are incredible. Do you? I'm presuming like you probably don't get to enjoy it the same way, like because you're just so busy and so kept going with everything that you don't really stop to take any of it in.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to enjoy the stuff as it's happening, because you're constantly kind of thinking about logistics. Like, everybody comes up to me at the stadium shows and say, what do you think of my match? But at the same point, I'm considering, how do I get 50 and 60 wrestlers to Belfast the next day, and how do I get them to the airport on time if the flight's out on Sunday night? So it is a constant stress, like, but I think the reward of looking back on what we've achieved is well worth it.
That's incredible. I mean, like, again, we kind of look at these different cards, and particularly on the Saturday card, and you've got TNA World Champion, TNA Cruiserweight Champion, you've got contracted AEW talent, you've got ex-WWE talent. Like, what goes into that? Like, how many different countries or companies do you have to kind of spend time plumosing to it, if you want to use an Irish phrase, in terms of like, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll bring you over here, we'll put them with this. Like, how like political factors, like how much stress does that cause you? Because I can only imagine having to deal with 3 or 4 different sets of PR companies and different egos, as we touched on earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we don't usually have any interactions. We've had some interactions with TNA about trying to do some stuff, but there's not usually any kind of liaison with TNA or anything like that. The guys have contracts where they're allowed to take independent dates. Now, obviously, the Impact dates are a priority, and putting the shows together on that date that Ziggler happened to be free, we were kind of hoping that TNA don't book in some dates, and they actually did book in some dates that weekend, but I think they moved them because they needed Ziggler, so it freed up a lot of talent. It was just a stroke of luck as well, because I did hear that the TNA dates were essentially the same weekend, the 9th and 10th, and they switched them to the following week or maybe the week after, so it kind of worked out that we had access to people like Speedball and Trent Seven, and of course Nick Nemeth for this weekend.
That's incredible. Yeah, listen, I think a lot of us are looking forward to like kind of the variety of the weekend. How we were just chatting about the Belfast show beforehand. The Belfast show being like an opportunity for a lot of guys to kind of come to the School of Irish Wrestling as well. The likes of Luke Frehel, Cian Noonan getting a big spotlight wrestling against Noah's our own LJ Cleary as well. Like, how important is that kind of that Belfast show in terms of getting guys reps, getting in front of a seasoned audience who understand kind of the OTT brand, as well as putting them in a space where they're against contracted established talents?
I mean, I have to have 100% faith before I put somebody into that position, and that's really the main thing, is that everyone leaves the venue as they came in, safe and healthy. I think the guys are up to it. We run our school quite tight ship, but you can see the talent. I'm talking about just post-COVID talent, the talent that the school has turned out. I mean, like, these are people that showed up on our doorstep, first class back of COVID, but like, you've Bittersweet Josh, Renzo Rose, Sam, Luke Frettel is about to make his debut. There's just Ilya Zarkov. There's so many great talents. Kane Noonan, and that doesn't even put back the talent that's been there previous that are just kind of working on like more of their personas. But Noah Walker and Dara Lynch and Con Kelly, like the school is turning out a tremendous amount of talent. It's just incredible to see, and we just want to give as much opportunity to these guys to help get the next generation up there. But I think we've done a great job. Post-COVID, we've really kind of put out a lot of top talent onto the Irish independent scene that's now gone on to do stuff in Europe. So it's really encouraging. I think that shows why the School of Irish Wrestling is such an important school for the island of Ireland. It's the only place essentially where you're going to get better. I mean, the talent speaks for itself. You can see it. It's all OTT talent that's standing out.
Yeah, and Mark said there that there are a couple of champions coming over. Has there been any consideration or any talk about getting some championship matches on any of the cards?
We tried to get the deal done, and it was a no, unfortunately. Okay. So yeah, they just turned it down, which kind of surprised me because the person I was talking to put us in contact said they thought it was a really good deal, and they think they wouldn't perceive it being an issue, but unfortunately they shut back and said no, it's not something they were interested in doing. So we have to respect that and just move on.
Yeah, that's a shame. Unless there's anything else from Mark there, Joe, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you are very busy. You do have 4 big shows coming up, and I know that when I was talking to you earlier, you did say that you're up the walls, busy. So we are all looking forward to the show. And yeah, can't wait for a big weekend. We hope that you survive the weekend as well, because we know the lack of sleep and all might do you over this time, because you did say to me last time you don't know how you survived it.
Yeah, it's been amazing as well. Like, you know, this stadium show looks like it's going to be the first one to sell out as well.
Yeah,
since post-COVID. Wolves is doing phenomenal. As I said, I think we've like about 120 odd tickets left, which is just really encouraging to see as well. I think for the overall scene, and then Belfast as well, I think we're hovering around 400 tickets sold there as well. So it's really encouraging, and I think the future of Irish wrestling is kind of looking good. So let's just keep going on and producing more talents, and let's make the next Jordan Devlin.
No, huge congrats on the ticket sold more than anything. Like, there's a huge undertaking in terms of booking, logistics, and everything. But on top of that, like, marketing and having to make awareness around these events to get like 2,200 people in the building, plus another 1,000 people over in Wolves, plus whatever, how many people are in Lost Lane getting lost or whatever. I've no doubt you'll be top of the stage, giving a comedy routine, cracking some jokes, and then selling 400 tickets in Belfast. That's a huge undertaking, a huge compliment. So well done.
Yeah, much appreciate the sports for all the fans that are out there listening. Thanks for the continued support, and thanks for supporting the Irish wrestling scene.
Brilliant. Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much for coming on, and we'll see you the weekend.
See you at the show, guys. Thanks.
See you, Joe. Bye.
There you are. Cool. I had to get a dig in it.
No, it was great. Brilliant to have Joe on, and just to give people an idea of actually what goes into these shows. Like there's just so much that, like, even like I've been privy to some things, and some things that I didn't even fathom were involved, and you can't even think about it until you see it, and you're like, shit, I didn't even think about that. Or there's just so much, and like he does have some support around him, but he does a lot on his own as well. So I don't know if I'd be able to do 4 shows. He said that he did 5. I think that was probably the would that have been with the Spiegel tent one year maybe. So yeah, it's a massive undertaking. But yeah, fair play to.
I think there's a level of ignorance among fans, right? And I think modern generation, be it Gen Zennials, Gen Millennials, whatever the fuck they call themselves these days, right? People are just oddballs living online. Why don't we get this? Why don't we have that? Be it from one town to another, or like, why doesn't he do this? Like, because there's 1,000,001 different considerations. There's costs, there's time, there's effort, there's marketing, there's fucking insurance as much as anything. The amount of cost, everything, and going through a soon-to-be recession currently off the back of years of inflation. Like, there's huge costs. What used to cost a certain amount 5 years ago costs 10 times that now. And even more logistical kind of considerations and different political ramifications. I had an idea around, I was trying to touch on with Joe there. So when you see people online saying like, well, why don't we have XYZ flying over from America every show? Because fucking there's a cost. And he was talking about the importance of the School of Irish Wrestling there as well. in kind of creating your own natural talent. So that's so you don't have to constantly import people as well. So you can develop your own Irish wrestlers, people who are invested in the scene, and people who are going to be available at a not just a lower cost, but people who are invested in the scene itself, and you can be available at every show. So like he was incredibly frank, and he was kind of honest in the amount of work and time and consideration that goes into it. So I hope people who are watching along with this can kind of maybe have a bit more appreciation for the amount of effort. Again, it's a one-man show. I was chatting to Danny Quilden from RevPro today, and again, he's much the same. Like this is a small enterprise without a huge amount of government or local support. Again, everything's going on his shoulders. Then he might necessarily have like a financial background. So there's huge amount of considerations he's got to put all on his shoulders and make sure this entity keeps running itself and running successfully. So all the respect in the world for him doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just catching up on the chat here as well. Sorry, that's why I'm looking at my phone here. Just Claire saying that that group is fantastic. She's a huge fan of like Sam, Keane, Boots. Yeah, that contingent that came through. I think we were really lucky that's the post-COVID crew that came through. So they were the first kind of batch that came through in that first batch after COVID, and I think that. I think it might be a long time before we get a batch like that again, because people obviously got to rocket up their arse during COVID, sitting around, and then when the doors opened back up, everyone kind of came in at the same time. So,
can I say one thing on that group as well, just to add?
Yeah,
they're bloody lovely lads. That group,
absolutely.
I mean, like I was unfortunate enough, stupid enough to train briefly with them when I fucking with a broken neck and numerous concussions, like after COVID. And that group of lads, particularly the ones that come from overseas, the likes of Renzo, Josh, Andrea, that prick, like all them that came over, they're all really genuine, open, willing to help you, willing to give the shirt off your back lads. Now, having said that, there's guys in the generation before that I think are absolute bellends. That's just in a personal front, but like as people, not as performers. But the people, it's brilliant to see the likes of Luke Frehel. Obviously, he's injured recently, Nathan Murphy, but seeing guys like that and Ilya, Andrea, Josh, all their success, like if you know them on a relative personal basis and you're even just a kind of couple of personal interactions, they're decent people who've kind of gone out of the way and they've stuck with something. They've been kind when all their interactions, anybody who kind of comes through the school, good kindness gets rewarded and hard work gets rewarded. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm delighted to see them get that. Yeah,
Claire says you need to get over the pie.
He can fuck off. You loser. No, but listen, Claire, as you know yourself, like they're the nicest people in the world, that kind of generation, the likes of Andrea and whatnot. Despite on the camera assaulting me, but yeah, there's something else that Joe said there. I saw in the chat as well. We're talking about the no impact titles being on the line. That's brilliant. And I think one of the gripes people had who are being pedantic like yourself, and we're talking about like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion. TNA World Champion can't lose, but like. He can now, and TNA don't necessarily. Do you know what I mean? There's things like that. Even Speedball's end, like there's so many different more ramifications where things are no longer a foregone conclusion in terms of results. So,
I do think from a promotional standpoint, just if a championship match could have gotten over the line, just to have that championship on your show and showcased on your show, it kind of like from an outside perspective, it looks really good, you know.
Yeah, I think on paper it does, but then you've also the past you've had the likes of Moose come over, and like he's thick as fuck. Like he used to come over, did Wrestle Carnival shows, and he was doing like TNA defenses there with Wrestle Carnival, where he'd fight somebody for 5 minutes and squash them. Whereas Dolph Ziggler's not going to do that, or Nick Nemeth is not going to do that either. So yeah, I think it's a positive anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see someone say that you can sleep on the 2-hour drive to Belfast. Joe drives to Belfast. He for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know if he wants me saying this, but he drives the ring. He has a trailer on his car, and he drives the ring to and from the shows. So yeah, like he can't even sleep, and that's what he's saying. He had to pull over on the side of the road and have a little stroll around the last group of shows, just to kind of keep himself awake, you know. So it is a massive undertaking. Like I was even looking at going to Wolves. I was considering going to Wolves, and I kind of nipped it in the bud very earlier on, because the comedy show is an 8 o'clock start. presumably that goes 2.5 hours. That's 10:30. I'm not home till 11:30. You probably have to be up at the crack of dawn heading over to Birmingham, or early enough to get to Wolves for a 7 o'clock show over there. That show probably won't finish till 10, 11 o'clock. By the time you go back to your hotel, it's after midnight. By the time you're going to sleep, and then you're up at the crack of dawn to come back to Dublin again to go to a show for 5 o'clock. And if you have a meet and greet, that meet and greet is 3 o'clock. So like it's such a massive undertaking, and that's from a fan perspective, leaving the venue after the show and not having to be there for an hour or two after, and not having to be there for 2 or 3 hours before the show as well, like a lot of the talent do, so it is a huge weekend. And fair play.
I think it depends on how accustomed you are to travel, particularly short-term travel. If you're somebody like travels to work regularly, but like if obviously since the world's changed post-COVID, and most of us work from home like 1 or 2 days a week anyway. So like it's again it's personal capability. Like your body can adjust to it. Like Joe does this once a quarter, so it's not going to be the worst thing in the world for him. He talked about like kind of that one time I'm to walk on the road, but like listen, this weekend will go in a flash for him, and suddenly it'll be Tuesday, and he'll be crashing and having a week in bed then. So yeah, like I think it's an individual thing as much as anything. Claire says she still wants to go to Wolves, and I don't know if she's offering me local honey, but sure.
I did. I had a look just out of curiosity at the flights this morning. It's just over €200 to fly to and from Birmingham, on the flights that you probably need to be taken. So there's that, and then your train fees, and then your hotel fee, and then your ticket fee, and it's looking like if you were to book it now, like it would be an expensive trip, I'd say. So, not trying to turn anyone off. I would recommend maybe looking at the likes of a Manchester and East Midlands as well airport. There's more flights going to Manchester, and the train is only like an extra 20 minutes than it is from Birmingham. So, but let's get back to Belfast. We were talking about Luke Frettel, Scotty Davis. The next match then that we can go and look at. If you're finished with Luke and Scotty, was there anything else?
We even touched on there. We even touched on like kind of what we thought of Luke as a person. He's a great lad as well. So on his iron hamstring. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah, he's just like he's so committed and so dedicated, and the injury that he had probably would have taken a lot of people out of it. Especially at such an early stage in a wrestling career, or a wrestling career that hadn't even started yet. So a lot of people might even just walk away at that stage, So the dedication to see him like fight through that injury and continue going, is huge, So, but I'm really looking forward to that. I think a lot of people will be surprised.
I think being how young he is as well kind of works in your favor, where like you suddenly, if you get injured, you're not having to go into an office on crutches type of thing every day. Do you know what I mean? There's that element to it as well. You don't necessarily have a huge amount of things to fall back on in terms of commitments or pressures. So he does have that, and it's that advantage as such, being at a young age where it's not be all end all. But listen, he's got more resilience than 99% of people who would give this type of wrestling thing a go would run away at the first sign of an injury. So fair play to him. I think he's a brilliant lad as well.
Yeah, Claire said Scott for the win.
Scott or Scotty?
She said Scotty, but I'm calling him Scott because it's in the Scott.
Yeah, he's grown up now. There, his name's
Scott Davis.
Adults don't put a Y at the end of the
name. Another one that was thrown up during the week, which I was really surprised by, and I know Claire's gonna love this one as well. Damien Corvin against CJ West.
Yeah, but it was a really brilliant promo from CJ West. It was unbelievable. Like before we talk about it, how funny would it have been to be walking down by Grand Canal and to see this fella dancing around like that? That must have been 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd say at 5 or 6 in the morning, because like I walk past that several mornings a week at about that time. And I was looking at it. I was trying to gauge it from the light, like what time that is.
Well, it wasn't evening because it would have been too busy. So it had
to be like looking at it from the light, because I kind of get the bus to around there, and I walk down to my gym beside Trinity. So I'm looking at it and like, okay, this is between 5 and 6. I know people that go to work at this time, so he's got away with murder. So you got like Meta Facebook offices there. You've got Accenture in the dock. You've got so many big offices, HSBC, are all within about 50 meters of where he's standing doing that. So he's gotten away with murder that there's nobody walking behind fucking delivering milk or delivering bread to Spar or something around the corner as well. So it's unbelievable. It was what was the name of that movie that's from again? It's your mum, the afro and the glasses.
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, come on, Colin, do better. It's somebody in the chat, tell me what it is, because
Claire will know it. I have his picture in my head. It's
Apollo or something
Napoleon
like that.
Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite. There you go.
Like, why did that take so long?
Yeah. Thank God for that. But it's really creative, and like he's long been one of the most creative people on the scene in terms of his work he does with his video packaging, his editing, his thought and going into his promos, the way he even come up with his fucking what's the name now? I'm not a phoenix. It's fucking not pelican. What's the name of the animal he's portraying when he does the kind of
Peacock.
There you go. Jeez, my brain isn't working today. No, listen, he's one of the hardest working. Like we talked about, kind of the work that goes into the Wolves shows. He'd be the guy running pretty much everything on point for Joe. Joe would just sit there behind a laptop waiting for the screen to die in Wolves and then trying to fix that. Whereas TJ was running around here, there like a headless chicken, doing meet and greets. He's doing merch. He was, anytime there's anything going through the crowd, he's always about 5 meters away, making sure the crowd are kind of safe distance. One of the hardest working people in wrestling. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Corbin on a bit of a tear anytime we've seen him. Now we don't see him that often. He seems to like do the Belfast shows, but like, he's more aggressive. He's really adapting that more mainstream style as well. And I probably because he has shown up at the likes of WWE and AEW shows, maybe he's starting to wrestle that way to maybe get picked up somewhere.
But like at the same time, so he kind of jumped at that. He appeared at Money in the Bank last year. I was looking at this timeline, right? Money in the Bank last year, he kind of did that appearance. He did the appearance at All In. He did the one at Glasgow. But he's not like doing a shit ton of indies in between. Like he's doing I don't know if he's doing much outside of OTT. Was a period when he's brought Kings of the North, he was doing ICW, he's traveling around the UK doing TNT and stuff, and he was really like hot.
Whereas the only other one that I've seen him in is the likes of like NLW, but like that,
people have families, people have jobs and whatnot like as well. So obviously there's gonna be huge dependency on that. Like he's put a huge amount of effort into his gym work and his bulking and sizing and whatnot. So like fair play to him, is a huge undertaking as well. And again with families and kids, but it's a funny one. Like if you're obviously people are in contact with major mainstream companies, but this has to be a level of kind of reps getting in as well. And even like the shows he does for OTT, he only tends to see him on the Belfast shows. So I mean, like, for somebody like a couple since he's kind of gone on the single run, anytime you see him, he's been incredibly intense. He's always made an impact. You kind of wish he was just booked a bit more. Like you wish he was booked at these. I personally wish he was booked in these Dublin shows, these Wolves shows, just for a bit more exposure, just for a bit more familiarity and continuity as much as anything. Because like it's only an hour and a bit up the road. Like you'd hope that like you get to see him a bit more than you do. Because when he kind of went on the solo run and he kind of doing his turns and all that, like anytime you do see him, like you get excited about like, okay, what's going to happen next? There's always so many times you can kind of see him come in, batter somebody after a match or before a match or whatever it is, and then kind of leave, and then you're waiting for another 4 months, whatever, for the next Belfast show. So you do hope that they be a bit more of a sustained push, or not effort, but like just a sustained exposure for him. I suppose what you want.
Yeah. Going back to CJ, seems to be ramping up what he's doing. He's getting the couple of shots here. The Peacock stuff is what am I trying to say? It's a thing unto itself. Like just that entrance alone, I think is worth even having on the show, if nothing else, because it's a spectacle. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. It's a spectacle on itself, you know. As far as I know, the entrance is about 3 minutes long, and like that, like it's a hot 3 minutes. Like there's nothing boring about it. You're not waiting for it to be finished or anything. So. But like fair play to CJ West to see how much he's kind of come on, and this gimmick is kind of taken off from him as well. He's over as fuck in NLW. He's over as fuck in Scotland when he goes, and I think we're starting to see that now transition into the OTT audience, and he's really starting to get over. For someone who was probably overlooked for a long time. It's great to see someone who's put so much effort and so much hard work into their craft, and all around on these shows, because like I don't think anyone understands how much work this guy does.
So I'll go one step further. I think not just overlooked. I think he was taken for granted in terms of the amount of stuff he's doing behind the scenes, and like that. Listen, that happens. Do you mean he had a role that happened? He's so important to how shows are run on a technical production, all these different avenues. Like he's Joe's point guy for all these things that like. Could he do it without him? And then he kind of took a step back and he kind of backed himself as well by investing in own time as a gimmick and traveling to Scotland, where he's not necessarily doing the Peacock thing. He's doing the traditional CJ West gimmick from previous. So like being taken for granted, backing yourself, showing your own worth, showing your value, as people do kind of crossing between televised promotions across America. No, it's hugely admirable for a guy who's been on the scene for some time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see him getting a win here?
No. Sorry. No.
Do you see him getting absolutely destroyed by
possible death?
Death. Okay.
I've no doubt he'll come out with a really suspicious orange tan though. That will just fumigate the room as is his want. But no, I'm looking forward to the entrance. I'm looking forward to seeing more of his character. I'm sure like I won't be a squash. I think it'll be a decent match. I'm looking forward to it. I think Dame Corbin will win in a rather strong manner though.
I can really see this one go either way, to be quite honest.
Really?
I wouldn't. Yeah, it's just a type of match because Corbin doesn't really have a hell of a lot going at the moment.
Yeah,
I could really see maybe a shock win, or an 80% Corbin, 20% CJ, and then
banana peel,
sneaky little roll up or something, and it shocked Corbin then afterwards, and maybe that sets the rocket up Corvin's arse to get going. Then I can really see it going. I think like my head is saying initially looking at it, Corvin is winning this match, but then like I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, look, it lends to maybe a sneaky win as well.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. I see that now. I see that kind of banana peel type finish where you kind of build off the back of that. You might win by get a 3 count, then Corbin merges him after the match.
Quite possibly, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me as well.
There's a creep in the comments here called Jerry Rush from the Irish Wrestling Entertainment account saying DPs in the eyes, whatever you're into, Jerry. Okay.
I do pity the guys that have to go out there with the Kings, or former Kings even. The DP, you can smell them before you see them. You know when there's a Kings match coming up because the DP starts wafting through the.
Simon has a similar hue to him as well. To be fair, so
he does. Yeah. There's a couple of lads now have been using. Someone came out there recently. I can't even remember who it was. It might have been DeReese.
Yeah.
DeReese or Haskins maybe, and smelled really nice. But it was something similar to a DP, but actually smelled nice.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, yeah. I digress. Our next match, this one that is missing is something. Session Martina versus Dan Barry, the same versus Danhausen. So the question that we were asking was: is this a 4-way? Is it 2 singles? What is going on?
I think it has to be a 4-way. We should have.
It is a 4-way. There's just a VS missed on it.
For what he's on the air about his production, changing people's names and. Even VS, it is a 4-way.
It wouldn't be an OTT graphic if there wasn't a typo in it.
Yeah,
it's like the running gimmick now.
Yeah, so I'm curious about this is right. I think you've got Martina the other week in Progress changing her attitude or taking a different approach, if you want to call it turning heel. You've got Danhausen, Sem, and Dan Barry. Like Dan Barry's going to be the clown who slips on banana peels and like, I fell down on a set of teeth or whatever. Out of the 3 of them, that's the way I kind of visualize that. I personally would see that. Martina's not like you can't have, but you can, but it wouldn't make logical sense if you're thinking this through. Like 4 essentially baby faces. So I'm interested in what kind of Martina's going to be doing on the Friday and Saturday. That's going to infer to how she behaves on the Sunday.
Yeah,
is it going to be a change in attitude? Is she going to like? I can see a spot already where like Danhausen drops to his knees and tries to punch her in the groin, but then she's like, "Yeah, I can see that already." But I mean, I could see her like I don't know, pile driving Danhausen or something or Sam, if she has a change in attitude that's continued through to OTT. I just look at that lineup and I'm thinking, like, who's the standout antagonist?
Yeah.
And I think I think depending on what happens over the weekend, that would be my assumption on that front.
It may not need it to an extent as well. Like sometimes these multi-man matches haven't had them. Like we've seen some of the hot matches in the stadium. Some of the 4-way, 5-ways that didn't really have one. So
Dan Barry's in the GN Championship the day before, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay. You'll be defending the GN Championship here. That's what I think is going to happen.
The GN Championship is I think that's the Friday, is it?
Saturday, where he's against Golden Boy Santos.
The Ilya one. Sorry.
Ilya. I think Dan Barry could win this. And I think he could. Why are you having a 4-way otherwise? Possibly, yeah. I think, again, we're getting insider kind of thinking we're the booker here. But I mean, that's why I think could happen. Because a random 4-way is just a random 4-way otherwise. There has to be some sort of logic or thought behind it. I think the day before, you'll likely see Danhausen ping up and win. I think Martina, as advertising, Martina will appear, whatever. I think she'll likely have some sort of mystery challenger or somebody will come out and she'll have a match. I think she'll probably win off the back of that. So you've got probably 3 out of the 4 who may have won a match the day before.
Danhausen has a match with Renzo.
Yeah.
Potentially, I'm thinking that he doesn't come off the back of that. Okay. The Sem doesn't have a match, but is presumed to be involved. Martina is just appearing. So Dan is the only one who actually... Dan and Danhausen are the only 2 that actually have matches scheduled. Yeah. And Danhausen's is for an NLW Championship match.
I'm just trying to think this through. I could see them doing some sort of unpredictable because the GM.
That's another thing. Sorry, Claire's just after making a good point there in the comments. It says random matches are a staple the day after a stadium, though. That's very true. If you go back and look at hangover shows and some of these just mad throwaway matches have happened. We have seen them with Scotty.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that's just my own interest. Why? Why are you doing something? What does it mean? What are you trying to? What's it working towards? Because you've got 2 people in the match who are not going to see next time. You're probably not going to see for a long time or ever again. So, what are you trying to get from this match? Are you trying to? Sem's going to be put over, or do you know what I mean? What's the point in this? You're putting them with these a television star, somebody who's a huge UK star, Martina. You're putting them with Dan Barry, who's a known in the independent scene. It's what are you trying to get from this? So what are you trying to build towards that you can take forward in future shows? The only person that's not is Sem. So how does this help Sem? Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to, my lens I'm looking at it with.
Yeah. Unless Sem wins the women's championship off Martina in this 4-way, and that's on the line. Yeah, it's not happening.
Well, I mean, listen, 2024.
Yeah. I think regardless, I can see a lot of fun in this match. I think it's going to have a few laughs. It's going to be hokey. It's going to be weird. It's going to be wonderful. And I can see some fun moments created out of this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Potentially, again, depending on what goes on, I can see probably Sam getting the win in this one. I think he could use it the most in a match like
Sam
this.
Or Martina, depending on what she does on Saturday. Yeah, I think it's between the pair of them. And then you could blend into a Sam versus Martina storyline, depending if hypothetically there's a GN title involved as well, as we kind of hypothesized earlier. There'd be lots of teeth and bags and cans in this. So, I mean, that's what's going to happen. But anyway, don't know what Dan Barry's going to do other than make a tit of himself.
Yeah, he's usually he is a bit of a fan favorite. Dan, when he is. Comes over.
I know, but just in that kind of universe where you've got 3 gimmicks. Gimmicks being people with kind of actual physical gimmicks. Yeah. So
anyway. Next up, Cian Noonan taking on LJ Cleary. Now I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but Cian really has stepped up over the last few months. And to get in there with someone like an LJ Cleary, it's when I look at Keane, I kind of see a little bit of LJ a few years ago in him. Like, you know, he has that drive, he has that passion. He's the kind of mark of like, this is a guy who could go on to greatness, you know. And if anyone's ever spoken to Keane, his passion exudes through him, you know. Well, like, yeah, this is a great opportunity for Keane. He had an opportunity after the anniversary show where he took on Robbie X, and he really stepped up there. And here's another opportunity for him. And LJ seems to be relishing this one as well. I think LJ, although he has a match with Nemeth the night before, I think like he's really relishing a match against, because he knows he's going to go out there and have a great match with Nick Nemeth, and it's a fairy tale match for him. Yeah. Like, then the next day he gets to go and he gets to have a match against someone who is coming through the ranks and see a lot in him, you know. And it looks like LJ is really looking forward to this one as well. But Keane for me is like, has been a massive standout, and I think it's only a matter of time. I think probably now he's there now, isn't he? Like, where he's probably going to be on every show going forward, or he just needs a bit of substance. He needs something to get his teeth into.
Substance, or a bit more man. It's the best way I can describe it in the kind of simple terms. In terms of like, he's got everything. Athleticism, moves, and all that, and the kind of the routines and the spots and all that kind of jazz. But I want to see somebody just go over and like fucking clock somebody with a forearm, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, drive somebody in a corner and like stamp in their head a few times. Yeah, just something like that can let you go, okay, so I take you seriously. Now I take you as somebody who could beat them, because wrestling is about beating up somebody else. Yeah. Regardless of how you want to do it, like, that's what I want. I mean, he's a natural fan favorite. As a guy, he's lovely. He's naturally like. He's got a natural, I don't know if it's charisma, but like likability in terms of like, he's got a baby face kind of charm. He turned me down when I approached him for managerial service before, but anyway, that's not I think like, this is just something being pedantic now. As a baby face and somebody you could like put on posters is like, particularly say for family friendly shows, I think he'd be brilliant for kids and stuff. Calling himself sculpted is a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like, as a face, it infers like, I'm sculpted, I'm an Adonis, I'm a god. That's kind of what it like, that terminology sounds like to me. Like, and yeah, he's in great nick, but like, you don't want to. A heel would call himself that. A heel would be braggadocious and boastful about his appearance as such, rather than kind of being a happy-go-lucky kind of guy as he portrays himself once he's in ring. So that's just something small that I gripe I have, and it's just something that kind of occurs to me when I watch him and hear his promos and stuff. But yeah, this would be class. Like, I mean, you don't know how long LJ will be back over before he goes over to Japan next, or like what his next kind of available dates are. So no, this would be incredible, and it's a brilliant way to close off the weekend, having hopefully like a 15-minute match or so with Keane. At least would be absolutely brilliant, so you can get the most out of it. I
think there's a couple of tournaments coming up now in Norway, as far as I know, that I don't think LJ has been advertised for.
No, it's not in the N1 anyway. So yeah.
So I know that they're coming over now in September. So I don't envision him maybe going over before their tour back over here. So potentially he's going to be here. We know that he has that hard knocks date as well at the start of September. And I don't like, he's probably going to be here for, I don't know, there's no scheduled OTT show, but I'm presuming there's going to be one in September, and he might still be here for it as well, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, there's three no shows over in the UK. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. But again, like, you don't know if, like, what's going to happen down the line with him. This Keane's one chance to have a kind of all-out 15-20-minute match with him as well. So really looking forward to it. It's a big opportunity, and I'm excited for Keane.
Yeah, presumably you don't see Keane getting the W here though.
He might do. So I mean, like, what does LJ get out of it? Like a year ago, before he gets signed from Norway, you were like, okay, well, like, how long can you hold off for putting him in an OTT title match?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like that. And then it was just kind of kicking a can down the road for a long time, and then suddenly he's going. So now it's like he's going to Japan, and he's going for longer stints than like when Trent goes to TNA for a week or two. Trent will go and film like 4 episodes of TNA. He might do a seminar when he's over there in 1 or 2 places. Then he's back to the UK, swanning around doing God knows what. So he's got less availability than somebody like Trent does, or somebody's contract with the likes of TNA, with the likes of Lee Slater or whatever. So I think personally think OTT missed the boat on putting a title on LJ. I don't know, like other promotions like Hard Knocks, RTW kind of saw the writing on the wall and put a title on him. So I don't know if LJ will ever be the OTT champion. Just based purely around logistics and availability and kind of different priorities and opportunities in life that present themselves that you can't turn down.
And do you think that like they missed the boat in putting the championship on him so that they can just turn around and say, oh, like when he does make it, oh, he was our champion. Would that be your only thing behind it?
Yeah, a lot of the times he was kind of involved in the match, the big match. He was the match guy. Like he was the pack guy. He was the Cardona guy. Like it was a couple of times, like particularly that card after Cardona, I thought he should have been launched immediately into. I know there's other title matches and other programs going on that are being prioritized, but like you look back at it now and you're like, you just beat Matt Cardona clean. You made him submit and tap out 2,000 people, and that was the match in the show. That's with the main takeaway of his magic. And he's kind of been the guy in Irish wrestling for a long time as well, or the past number of years anyway. So it's kind of wrestling. You can book wrestling in any way you want. Like people say it's not his time, but you can book it to be his time. And it's just like this. This is me being Captain Hindsight over here. What you should have done is this. Like, hindsight is 2020, and there may have been plans in place for like in a year and a half's time, on the assumption the WWE aren't going to sign him, and then the assumption that Noah aren't going to look. Or New Japan aren't going to look because they're inundated with people who've been released from NXT and other contracts across the States. They're not going to start bringing in more UK-based talents. But then all of a sudden, Jack Morris gets signed for Noah, and then suddenly they start looking around the UK more. So, like, again, these are unforeseeable circumstances to a degree. It's just, I just don't think it's a case now where LJ is ever going to be OTT champion, as unfortunate as that is, in my view. And I don't see any harm in Keane beating him at this stage. This is a different perception around him now.
Yeah. Do you think that I know the old adage in wrestling is that the champion doesn't make the man makes the championship, you know? Is that, I know that we've heard that in the likes of our WWEs over the years, and like they should like be the champion and the championship shouldn't make them. Do you think that that's different in the likes of an indie where the championship is probably used more to make the person? And with that, then, if that is the case, did LJ need to be the champion, or would it be better off used to be on someone else, like a Sammy D, to propel Sammy up there? Because I don't think LJ I don't think at that stage needed to be propelled. I think he was already there.
Yeah, spot on. But I mean, at the same time, like, I think it was natural they were probably going to build to a stage where Sammy D versus LJ, and Joe had him back in his mind.
It seemed to be going that way.
Just because they're two guys, similar height, similar-ish age. They're both in their 20s. Similar builds. They obviously, you can see them in NLW or Hard Knocks facing each other, but you never see them in like the premier promotion in the country against each other one-on-one, really. And like they were always kind of booked at kind of opposing trajectories, kind of slowly on either side of the card. So I can only assume that's what fucking Voldemort Cabrera was thinking of. But sorry, Sean, I had no balls. I should have called him that on the air. But anyway, I think it just feels like a missed opportunity, and you hope if he does have an extended like 6 months run where OTT can book like 4 or 5 shows in the bounce, you build a program around it or something to that effect. So you fit in something to, I don't know, capitalize on LJ for being who he is, rather than just like, okay, LJ, you're back, so you're getting the match. LJ's back, so he's getting the other match. But because there's other people now who don't need the rub as such. So LJ doesn't necessarily need the rub because he's a contracted talent with Noah. He's on the radar of WWE. He's training with Natty and TJ over in the dungeon in Florida when he goes to visit people. So who's the next guy up in terms of is going to get the match? Is that a Cian Noonan? Is that somebody else in the school? Is that a Boots Murphy? Do you know what I mean? It's all these different considerations now. Like Renzo's getting the big matches as well. Not necessarily the same vein of form, but he's getting bigger matches. On the outside, he's been getting name talent as well. So I think you need to be looking at the next wave for these type of roles and putting Lee or LJ in a different kind of position.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to our next one, which is Terry Thatcher against Mike Speedball Bailey. And we did ask Joe about a championship match. I think if there was going to be a championship match, this is the one that I would have liked to see it in. I think it could have really like set a rocket onto someone like Terry Thatcher, and just to maybe get his name out there a bit more. I don't think it's any secret that I'm a big fan of a Terry Thatcher, so I think that like if he was in a championship match in Ireland, people might be looking at him going, oh, who was this guy that had that match, and maybe expose him to a newer audience. But unfortunately that's not the case. But either or, it still looks like it's potentially has the ability to be a show stealer.
So I think Terry Thatcher, 100% on that front. But I think Terry Thatcher, I think we touched about CJ West earlier, as somebody who's probably underappreciated or taken for granted. And I think you see him Hard Knocks was their champion for a bit, then he kind of faded away. He kind of he make appearances like 3 or 4 shows in a row for Fight Factory, kills it, best match on the show, also performer on the show more often than that. Then Fight Factory just miss him. Kind of they move on to somebody else. Like OTT has this kind of stable with scary people. But then that kind of just dissolves, and then it's kind of dropped, and for in preference for something else. And now he's going out of his way, and he's coaching at the school, and he's doing more and more to kind of make sure he's being seen and present. But again, he's not necessarily getting the stadium show, but he's getting this big match on a Sunday, which is much reward for his hard work. I personally just hope he kind of gets a sustained push. So it's not just like for 1 or 2 shows here and there. So he actually gets something he can get his teeth into. Maybe like CJ West, like it's. Maybe start backing himself, like depending on availability and dependencies and whatnot, like trying to get bookings on a weekend overseas. Because there's obviously been several instances where like he just hasn't been told about OTT shows or booked on OTT shows previously. So or other shows around the country. Like he's unbelievable talent. You watch shows around the UK and you're like, well, Terry Thatcher's better than him. Or a huge proportion of talents over there as well. So like, yeah, he's a guy you hope the best for more than anything.
Well, what's he missing? Like why isn't he on every show? Why isn't he on every promotion? Even in Ireland, even in OTT, even what is he missing? Because to me, I keep looking and he just ticks every box for me. Like he can have the match, he can tell the story, he can express himself, he does the promos outside. Yeah. They may not be the best edited, tight knit, but he's willing to put the time and the effort in to do them. And probably if he had someone there that can even help him with some of the editing process and make them a bit more emphatic, then like even better. But he's willing to put that investment into himself. I just don't see, like, he grips me as a wrestler. He makes me want him to win, and then when he did the heel run, he made me want him to lose, and he really made me hate him, going to the shows. So I just can't put my finger on what he's missing and why he's not getting these opportunities.
Like, wrestling's subjective, and more often than not, the people who book shows aren't objective. It's very much personal preference. Like, I like you, so you're going to be my champion. And you can see there's examples of all of that, particularly in the UK, or even like in Ireland. There's one down south that was very much like that. So like there are instances of that. Like there's politics. It's how much you're willing to suck up and lick arse. And like he's a really honest, decent guy as well. So maybe that plays a factor into it. But like I think you look at like, see, we're talking about James Ellis the other day, like in terms of the effort he goes on to in terms of packages and promotions. Then you look at CJ West and his Twitch channel and the audience he builds through that, and his awareness in terms of the effort he puts into and everything production-wise, booking himself on SBX's shows over and Ravy Davies shows over in Scotland, making those appearances. There's things within your control that like some people might take for granted or might not have an awareness from. And I think there's an element of Irish wrestling is a really very much a bubble.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think there's anything outside of it. And I think Ireland is the be-all, end-all. But sometimes to get a better name in Ireland, you need to look outside the bubble. And then do you know what I mean? I think when you talk to fans, like it's, Ireland's the best, but like it is the best. Ireland's brilliant, but like if you're not going to put yourself out there, and like wrestling's very much an individual journey in terms of how you're going to get yourself up to a next level and how you're going to develop yourself, and rather than depending on one person to suddenly see you differently because you start turning up to help the ring earlier or something, or you do more training sessions. Like, what are you doing to build your brand as a person? Because I just say, like, because the promos, tells a story, in ring, you can do it all. But like, what are the extras? If those things aren't working for you and you're widely regarded as one of the best wrestlers in every single facet in the country, like, what else can you do? What additional things? I was chatting to a guy called Bishop Khan from AEW the other day. He's telling me about his acting lessons he's doing. Like, I'm not saying everybody has to do acting lessons, but there's a lot of things within your control. And like Damien Corbin was posting on Instagram today, and he was talking about, like, he's one of these wrestlers that think your training, your diet, your nutrition, your appearance are every bit as important as how you perform in ring. So there's so many different facets to it that you might have every facet in this bucket, but how are you doing all these other different buckets?
Yeah.
Like, if you're taking a box and you're putting an effort and everything, like, that's when you can start asking questions. I think, like, are you going above and beyond, or are some people expecting? And I'm not suggesting for a minute that Terry Thatcher's expecting by any stretch of means. I just know there are other people on the island of Ireland. Conversations with them, they expect, like, oh, well, I've been here for some time, it's terrible, like, why am I doing this? I'll tell you, if WWE come calling, I'm gone tomorrow. Like, that's kind of that level of delusion. But again, not Terry Thatcher. I'm just saying, there's people like CJ West or James Ellis, we talked about the past 2 days, who've gone above and beyond and working their arse off and taking things into their own hands, and they realize they're being maybe underappreciated or overlooked, and they're forcing people's hands, and they're changing how they're perceived through their own efforts.
Yeah. Looking at the match though, what type of match do you expect here? Fast paced,
fast, intense, physical.
Probably not going to stay in the ring either.
No, I hope it does. Like, I know Terry likes to dive and stuff, as does Mike Bailey, but I hope it does. I want to see, like, I love wrestling in the ring. I think just stuff that leaves the ring just annoys me generally.
I don't mind that as long as it doesn't stay out for too long.
Yeah, but some of those Belfast shows, they go around by the bar and stuff. You're like, what are you doing? Get in the fucking ring.
You can really lose your crowd that way because you're segregating like 3/4 of your audience there where they can't see what's going on.
Yeah, I think obviously this is a tangent we're talking about. That's very self-indulgent stuff. You're trying to get your own how it makes you feel cool and stuff. Yeah, I'm hardcore. I'm GCW kind of shit. Like, it's anyway. I want Terry Thatcher and Mike Bailey battering each other in the ring. I say they'll be going 100 miles an hour off the ropes at each other, re-clattering each other. I think there's a huge amount of things you can anticipate and be excited about from this match. And again, I think I firmly believe people who may take Terry Thatcher for granted at the end of this match will be asked. Anybody in attendance will be asking themselves, why isn't he appearing on every show going forward? Yeah,
absolutely. There are a couple of comments there coming in. Where are we? One of the matches of the weekend. Claire said the reason she bought a ticket for the Belfast show, Terry for the win. As nice as the title match would have been, if the title's on the line, you know who's winning. Yeah, I did make this argument the other day that potentially you have the champion on your show already. Potentially the result is already ruined or forecast. So why not make it a championship match, as like it will add to that. Like, you had that championship match on our show from that side of things. Claire said he isn't missing anything in the ring or with promos. I think, and I hate to say this, he needs to put himself out there a bit more. Probably, yeah. Alex, sorry I'm late. That's fine, Alex. You missed everything.
Sorry.
He's a star. Push your merch. Push yourself. What merch? That's the thing with Terry Thatcher. That's one thing, right? That's one box that I don't have ticked, right? Where is your fucking merch? Where's your t-shirt? Give me a t-shirt. Give me like a set of braces. Give me fucking something. Like, I've wanted a Terry Thatcher t-shirt for the longest time.
Yep. That we get, like, listen, you can set up a camera like this, put it in his fucking shed, start ranting and raving on a camera, put it online. Do that once a week.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a lot. But again, I think there's an element of people in the Irish wrestling bubble who don't think who kind of expect Irish wrestling to know everything about them. They don't. There's a huge proportion of fans who go to, say, Fight Factory or RCW or Hard Knocks, who are there for a good night. NLW, it's a lot of kid-friendly shows. Families who don't watch wrestling at all, but the kids do. That's the kind of audience you're looking at. OTT, you have your diehards who know everything, but again, they're not the whole audience, they're a proportion of the audience. They're the front row CB, the second row Claire. Like that's that kind of crew. And you've got Rob and the lads who are drunk half the time at the shows, and you got Rory Brady making a tit of himself in the audience and people recording him like weirdos. Or you got Eamon saying creepy things in the back. So you've got that bubble, but outside of that, how are you building your own awareness outside of that? Like, you need to look at a bigger picture, would be my point of view, and not just casual fans as such. Like, Irish wrestling, you just need to know that Irish wrestling is unbelievably niche as much as we love it. And you just need to have that context. Like, how am I building general awareness for me?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely a bubble, and it's sometimes easy to get lost in that bubble as well, I will say. But yeah, like there is a bigger world out there. Terry, the next guy who could use with a Japan run, isn't the fella has a missus and 2 kids at home. I'm not sure how feasible that is. Again, life sometimes gets in the way of that kind of stuff. Helen, welcome into the chat. First time I'm saying Helen. Terry, so good. Never seen a bad match. Totally agree. Colin, sell merch. Claire and Michael have t-shirts. Yeah, that was from it. It was leftovers that he had from an old run that I missed out on. But again, like those t-shirts, as far as I know, they're like 7 years old. That they were left over from that run of t-shirts, from years ago.
That's before COVID. That's before I hate to bring it up. Speaking out. Do you know what I mean? There was a huge attrition and turnover of audience where they've had to rebuild their audience and their fan base since then. So there's an awareness of fans that might not necessarily know who he is. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different variables that need to be taken into consideration.
That's another thing there as well. Push himself to meet fans. Again, if you don't have merch, you're not probably out there selling. You're not out there shaking hands and like taking pictures and stuff. And that's a good point. That get out there, as Mark said, set up a fucking camera and talk into it for a little while. Helen was in work. Hope everything went well, Helen. Welcome in. But
missed Joe Cabray, Helen. Colin was talking absolute hoop.
You missed Joe, and you missed me talking hoop, as per usual. We don't know what our main event is. As I said, like Renzo put out a thing saying main event. Does that mean that he's just calling himself the main event, or is he in the main event? We're not too sure, but we will presume that him and Damo is. So we'll look at next Trent against the Reese. A lot of stuff.
So I mean, there's no mention of this match being for the OTT title.
No. Mark's just gone on a break there for a moment. Presume his internet is after lagging there. So we'll just talk a bit of nonsense for a minute. Trent.
Sorry, I dropped off.
I didn't cut you off. I think your internet just went. I was just talking Pony to fill the gap. Go on, carry on.
Sorry, I was saying there's no mention of that being an OTT title match, which is very telling. And I think unless maybe it will be, who knows? I think maybe that's just something they're taking for granted. I think the assumption is that Barry or Sam, one of them will be winning the title at the end of the show on Saturday, unless there's some sort of big show closing angle whereby Sam screws Barry, Barry screws Sam, or something else, and then this will be your kind of Man Like the Race Trent 7 world title match, which would be absolutely brilliant. But if on the hypothetical instance that Renzo Rose is main eventing against the hometown hero Damo, which I think is quite likely, possibly for the NLW championship, that you're going to see this is a one-off match. And I think, as I'm predicting 2 nights in a row now, I'm predicting that Darice will find God overnight and then go and batter Barry or Sam or whoever wins the title and turn heel. And you'll see a new version of Darice by the end of the weekend.
We only had this match a few months ago.
Yeah.
At Supremacy, I think. Was the main event. Darice lost, and then that was when the Nick Nemeth Darice match was announced. With that in mind, why we run this back?
Because he's a lazy booker. He's a lazy booker. Doesn't work hard enough. Told himself he doesn't write the shows anymore. No, I think there's going to be some sort of narrative related reason for this. I think, be it if there's some sort of closing angle on the Saturday, or this might turn into, this might turn into a tag match, given that they're both from Birmingham, Wolverhampton area, and the two of them against Sammy and Barry or something, right? I think this could be. This is a filler advertisement that these two are going to be appearing in this spot.
Yeah.
I reckon whoever else is going to be from the title implications on the Saturday night will also be featured into this angle or this segment as such. I don't foresee this being a world title match, and I don't believe that this will be more than... I don't think it'll be as advertised anyway.
That match was hilarious. Trent was getting so annoyed with fans booing him. MLD is great, puts on a great match. And wasn't Trent really spanked down? It could have been spanked down. Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those shows recently. And anyway,
Uranus.
Still don't know who he is.
No,
or she is.
You remained at large.
Yeah, I think we need to get an investigator onto this to find out who it is. But yeah, like it. Listen, you have these two guys. They're out. Like you have these two guys booked. If it isn't an angle, yeah, you have them booked. Throw them in a match against each other. Listen, they're not going to disappoint. They're not. We saw that previous match was a very, very good match. And yeah, we know we're going to get a good match out of them, and the crowd's going to be entertained, even if it is a throwaway, you know. But yeah, I don't know whether, like, what implications we have going into this. Trent maybe not the champion and may turn into a championship match. Does everyone get fucking swerved here? Does Trent retain on Saturday and drop to Derice in this match on Sunday?
Does Derice cost whoever Trent's facing, and then they become like a Wolverhampton team or something? These are other possible stipulations or machinations. I think there's going to... Again, the past two nights, I've assumed that Barry is going to win the title over Trent, and then on Sunday, he's going to get battered by Derice. I've just been fancy booking that. But I think the more you think about this, particularly when you look at the Belfast card as well, it lends to there's something happening at the end of the stadium show. And I prefer that rather than a happy ending, because that means it's continuity and a reason for you to come back. So, Helen says the stadium will erupt if Trent retains in a bad way. So you've been worked by a work. That's wrestling. Do you know what I mean? That is literally what wrestling is. Wrestling is designed to make you elated or furious.
Yeah.
Either way, if you incite that reaction, that's good. It's not a bad way, in my view.
Yeah, I understand people getting annoyed about a result, or maybe not the result that they don't want. But I've seen a lot of it this past year, and I haven't really gone in on it, so to say. Like, I have mentioned it a couple of times, but like, I've seen some reactions after shows or results not going people's way, and people getting like proper pissed off about it, and pissed off at the promotion, and pissed off at the people. And it's like you're going to a show to enjoy a night out, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who wins or who loses. Yes, evoke a reaction, but like, if you're getting so upset and annoyed about something, like, maybe you might need to take a step back and just kind of reassess, like, because like, I don't want to see Trent. I don't want to see Trent retain either on Saturday, and I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anybody else, but like, it's not gonna, like, I'm not gonna be like fuming over it. I'll be a little bit disappointed because Barry did. Like, I want Barry to win. My heart wants Barry to win. I want to see him win. I want that reaction. I want that moment in the stadium. I couldn't care what happens after that, and we will deal with that when it comes to it. But I want Barry to win on the Saturday, you know. But if he doesn't, like, I'm not going to be fuming over it. It's not going to ruin my night. It's not going to ruin the show. And that's the reaction that I've seen from people, is that show was shit because of this, or that ruined the whole show, or that ruined my whole night, or ruined my whole weekend because of that one thing that happened. Like, that one thing that happened shouldn't kill your whole show, your whole weekend. Like,
if you say like, oh, that ruined my night or whatever, to have a look at yourself. What are you doing Monday to Friday that you're putting that much emotional investment into an escapism? Anyway, but you also made a good point the past couple of nights about like Barry up to this point not necessarily being serious enough, taking seriously for this world title match, and the Sam match has obviously been put in place to help build on that.
Yeah,
And we talked about, like, if he does win the title the past 2 nights, he has to lose it immediately, and he has to go on that chase. Another way of doing that is having him be screwed.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's got a change of attitude enforced. Again, be it from getting battered on the Sunday, a change in attitude from Darius or whatever, and losing the title, having to reevaluate his life, and no, I gotta cut my beard and look like an adult because I look ridiculous in a minute. Or you getting screwed on the Saturday by somebody close to you, or somebody not so close to you, somebody unexpected like Darius or whatever. Maybe there's a lights out moment, suddenly Darius is in the ring, kicks him in the balls. I don't know. Something like that, like, would make you take Barry more seriously. And as you and I have said over the past 2 nights, there would have been an expectation that his booking and his performances would have been a lot more serious. Whilst in ring, he can still be hilarious and still be hilarious in his promos, but hopefully at the expense of somebody else, rather than being constantly self-deprecating. Do you know what I mean? I think he can be a bit more aggressive with his humor and taking the piss out of the guy in front of you, rather than being like coming across like a class clown ananymore. And like, that's the kind of, if you want to be a top guy, that's the kind of next level and to be a ticket seller.
That's like, for people who don't know, I'm not sure how savvy you are with the pre-COVID stuff, but that's how Barry was before. Now, obviously, he's after elevating himself up the card now as well. But that was the old Barry Nasty. It was take the piss out of everybody else, and I'm brilliant. You know, that was his.
But not do it in like a comedic way. Like, you can do it a bit more seriously as well. And I think even in ring, just like lay your stuff in. It doesn't have to be the fake chops anymore, like you did with Moxley. That was a time and place, and it's funny. Like, evolve. What's next? And that's if you want to be the guy, if Joe wants to be the guy. So I think there's an expectation on Saturday or Sunday where something happens where that's going to change his attitude on my part. Yeah,
there's also the thing now. I spoke with Barry earlier on today. It will go out hopefully tomorrow, or if not Friday. I'll have to get the timings. I'm not too sure, but he did say that one of the things was that Trent. I asked him, the last question that I asked was, why does Barry need to be the OTT champion? He said that like he needs the OTT championship, or the OTT championship is best for him, and the OTT championship, him win the OTT championship is best for OTT. And I asked him why. Why is this the best? And he says that one of the things is that there's not a fighting champion. Trent isn't a fighting champion. He's done it before. He did it with the tag team championships. He fucked off with them. He's doing it now. I think he's had one defense, 2 max. Is this his second or his third defense? He's not on every show, and he wants to be not just a fighting champion, but he wants to be a fighting champion for the Irish guys. And even if it's a case that he loses the championship, he's going to lose it to someone who is going to be on the next show and the next show and the next show. You know, and that's what he wants, which I thought was a really, really good answer. But for anyone who wants to watch that, keep an eye on the socials. I'll be getting that out over the next day or two. So just going through the chat here again. Claire said her and Helen are always working. Claire is the worst at getting work. She gets worked by everybody, absolutely everybody. It's hilarious. We were so pissed off at the Red Cow when Trent won. You can see us on demand looking furious. So we're a lot. Martin's in the chat. Good evening, Martin. There should have been a riot when Trent won. I wanted my riot. Listen, it would have been funny. I would have laughed at it. I would have questioned why people were rioting. It's a bit OTT, pardon the pun, but like, it would have been funny. Claire says we got over it quickly, unlike some fans. Martin, I want me riot. Martin had an interview go out this evening with Sammy D as well. That went.
How many marks were with them? Was it just 2 marks or 3 marks? Or?
Not too sure. I was meant to watch it today. My calendar went upended today. It was like fucked me up. Really fucked me up. So I was meant to have a look at it. I will definitely watch it either tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, get over to 5 Mark's YouTube channel and have a look at that interview with Sammy. I'm sure it's a great interview. And only a few days out from the stadium to see what Sammy has to say about his well, it's not even a big match to Sammy, isn't it? Not like, isn't that what he said? The biggest match of Barry's career, another day at the office for the Snake. He's not that naive, is he? Like Surely it gets to him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you do if Sammy wins that opening bout? Like, you'd be like, what the fuck has been the past like year? What's the point of it? Like,
I
think is it foregone?
How does he win? That would be that's my first question. How does he win?
But like, I mean, is it then like obviously there's going to be some sort of narrative followed on throughout the show later on with the main event where Barry will somehow feature outside whatever. But like, you touch on the kind of the amount of fans like, oh, something needs to happen, it has to happen. Oh, I'll be furious if it doesn't happen because you pay €10 for a ticket, you're somehow entitled to dictate how a show's going to go. You wouldn't do that at a play. But like, how do you react if Sammy wins? How would you react personally?
I'd be silently ecstatic, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I would probably be looking around at people's reactions and internally be pissing myself laughing, and maybe externally piss myself laughing. I would question the how rather than the what. Like, if Sammy was to win, if it was to be a match and Sammy just wins, no shenanigans, no dirty tactics, no nothing, then I'd be like, what the fuck? That's a bit strange. But then I'd also be looking forward to the Trent match and be looking forward to that. And because like,
you would assume that something's going to happen off the back of that. Then, like Barry, he's not just going to lose. Like if he lost his match, then suddenly wasn't featured. Maybe it's.
But then also, I'd be looking forward to Sammy winning the championship and wanting Sammy to win the championship. Then because, I as much as I like Sam as a face, I think his best work has been as a heel. I think he offers a lot more, and he's better when he's hated, not just by fans, but by the people around. And he adds that substance for people to challenge and to hate and to try dethrone the evil fucking emperor on top. Like it's.
Then you have a heel versus heel main event then.
Two different types.
I know, but like it's
as well.
It's still like it'd be just. I personally thought that the Sammy turning again was kind of hot-shotted, and it was.
Potentially,
it just felt kind of like, all right, well, this suits this better, so we're gonna just change anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously there's gonna be thought out and rationalized and be logic behind it. But it just feels sometimes wrestling when it's gonna flip flop. It's just like, well, you're flipping and flopping. Like, stick with the path. Stick with whatever the original plan was, the original length of time you probably envisioned for it. And I think Sam as a babyface is just, to me, stronger than Barry as well. He's somebody I would conceive fighting more. He's somebody I could conceive being like, fuck you, I'm going to fucking bury you for that. Do you know what I mean? And because he didn't get his automatic rematch at Trent as such, like, you look at, say, Progress, where Kid Lykos has just lost to
Luke Jacobs.
Lost Luke Jacobs, and he's getting his immediate rematch. He's going to come back with a different. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of different machinations there, like as to why. I think if you built it around, like, because Trent and Sam were both that SmackDown show, they could have done some sort of like in-ring, like, you're a prick, fuck you, you fat bastard, you stink of fake tan, you stink of DP. You're a state. Look at the grey hair in you. Get a haircut. Like, there's a load of different stuff. The size of your tits.
Yeah.
Like, you could have gone back and forth, and you could have made it more personal. You could have done an angle on that. But obviously, done the Loco Rumble. So, like, there's, I don't know. I just think it does
definitely throw a question in, because the Loco Rumble was to run into Scrapper, which was scheduled for. Anyone help me out here? April, May, something like that, June. I don't know when it was scheduled. It usually falls in March. They couldn't get the stadium. I know it was scheduled for June or something, wasn't it? I know tickets didn't go on sale, but then it was moved. So maybe it was meant to be something. April 20th. We're after getting in the chat there. Uranus, thank you very much. So it was meant to be scheduled for April. So presumably Barry was meant to have his match on April 20th, and things had to be moved.
Sam versus Barry for that would have been. That would have felt more authentic to a degree as well. It would have felt more, I don't know, it felt differently. Whereas now it feels like I don't know. Like it's a match to make somebody as well. I don't know. There's obviously thought gone into it, so I'm just. It's one of those ones where you can think yourself in riddles for hours, and I think regardless, it's gonna whatever the outcome of it, be it Saturday night or Sunday night, people are gonna have a very different perception of Barry in terms of somebody who can be serious. Is my hope and my takeaway. If somebody's going to flick a switch and somebody else, conversely, on the other side is going to be as an immediate challenger or whatever it is, or Barry's challenging somebody, whatever way it is, it's going to be some sort of actual heat behind it.
Yeah. Just catching up on the chat here again. Helen's still torn on who she wants to win. Have to wait for the match and then decide. Get off the fucking fence, Helen. Pick a fucking side. Claire, I did love when I hated Sam. It used to make me crazy. Yeah, listen, there's nothing more over the past few years in wrestling that I enjoyed more than hating Sammy D. It just adds so much to shows, and really kind of gives you something to as a fan to kind of sink your teeth into and want him to lose, even though you're more times than not you're going to be disappointed that he doesn't. But yeah, I love seeing the heel Sammy D back. Martin, if you want one thing to talk about from the podcast, I can give you one little thing from the episode. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'd love your thoughts. Spit it out, man. Get on with it. Alex, will Scrapper always be in August going forward?
Get off the pot, Martin. Come on.
Yeah, we genuinely we don't know. Like Scrapper's always heritagely been for the last few years, and anyway, you know when it started it wasn't, but it's always been Paddy's weekend. It's always kind of in and around that, whether it's the week before, the week of, or the week after. It's always been in and around that time, maybe even the start of April sometimes, but it's always true. I know that Joe has said before that he likes having it in around Paddy's weekend because it ties in so well. So I presume that he'd want to go back to that. The only kind of thing that's standing in the way, and I'm not sure, again, I'm just going back on stuff that we've heard before. I think it's February 2nd was Joe said before is booked into the stadium already.
That's my birthday.
For the local Rumble.
That's my birthday.
We're going to the Rumble for your birthday, Mark.
There you go.
So the local Rumble, I think, is scheduled to be, I think it's February 2nd. Date might be wrong there, but that's booked into the stadium provisionally for next year. Which then throws up, will we be back in the stadium for the anniversary show so soon? Because potentially we have the stadium this week, the stadium in October, and then the stadium in February, and then potentially going back in March again. Like, I don't know how that works. I don't know. That's like, Joe was on earlier. He said the stadium is selling really well, but like it is a hard sell. It really is a hard sell to get that stadium sold out. We didn't do it with Mox. It was 95% full, but it wasn't 100%, you know? So it is a hard sell. And like, I don't know if they can do anniversary October, local Rumble February, Scrapper in March. I think that might be a bit of a big ask. But if there's like this, if there's one person who's going to do it, it's probably going to be Joe. I think
as long as whatever he's done, marketing and logistically wise and communication wise, he's obviously done like something completely different this time. He has, definitely has completely reverted tact, particularly for the shows over in Dublin. So, on the assumption he's able to carry that forward and bring in a great awareness to these shows. Obviously, like this being sold out, there's no doubt a huge part of it is the fact that it's summer holidays. Like that's just the way it is. Saturday night, kids will be wanting to do something, keep them off a loose end, off the back of SummerSlam and things like that as well. Whereas like April, you got Paddy's Day, going back to school. So there's a lot of different variables there. So like if he's going to do the stadium show more often going forward, he's got to have a future plan. He's got to start marketing further in advance. He's got to really start driving and ramping up just the event itself before, like, as soon as he can start naming big names, start marketing them as well. So I mean, like, if he has a team underneath him who are able to help in that front, be I don't know whoever, yourself or whoever, that's the way you do it. Like, not leave it kind of a month or two in advance where you suddenly start ramping it up and hope for the best, because he has a million and one things in his plate, and it's not fair on him to have to do that. It's the type of thing, if you're going to do stadium show more than a couple of times a year, you need a team of people who are willing and able to push and drive that PR, communications, marketing, production, everything. Which hopefully could be in place if you have regular sellouts. That's going to drive up your revenue and your income and whatnot and your margins. So yeah, potentially that could be something hypothetically in the future to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin came back with what he wants to say. Sam was talking about what if Barry wins, and Sam's response was, "I'd be embarrassed to step into an OTT ring if Barry beat me. I don't know. I'd step foot into an OTT ring again if Barry beats me." That's all fair, and yeah, I get where he's coming from. The other thing is though, this is a 4-on-4 tag match. Potentially one doesn't have to pin or beat the other.
Just need to be flexed.
Like neither of those, like it could literally be like Flex pinning one of Barry's partners and Sam wins.
And then or like fucking Barry, or like again, one of Barry's partners pinning one of Sam's partners, and then or somebody in Sam's team screwing Sam, and then later in the night Sam screws Barry.
I do envision though that for pure storytelling purposes, unless there's something else that you want to run with, and unless there's a fallout, that it should be one of the leaders beating the other leader. But it may not be the case. So there is that as well to consider, that it may not be a Sam pinning a Barry or a Barry pinning Sam. So Sam might lose to Barry's team, but it doesn't mean that he's after losing to Barry. Sam is a bollocks. Haven't finished the interview. Yeah, switched over for this. Go on, Claire. You know where your loyalties lie.
There you go. There's only one mark in Irish wrestling.
Was there ever any update on the big Belfast show Joe was talking about in one of his Q&As? I'm not too sure which one you're talking about. There was WrestleRama, which was scheduled to be September 9th, I think, which was to go hand in hand with the Comic-Con, the Northern Ireland Comic-Con, which got cancelled due to logistical issues. So they still will be at Northern Ireland Comic Con on the con itself, but this was meant to be a show after the Saturday on the Comic Con, which got cancelled. Anyway, we'll move on to what is presumed to be our main event. The one that this match was meant to be on that Comic Con show. It was meant to be, as far as I know, was meant to be the main event of that Comic Con show, which is Big Damo taking on Renzo Rose for the NLW Championship, which is a bit of a swerve into what Renzo was saying. No Irishman will challenge, and Damo saying, well, he's Northern Irish, or he
different
has dual passports or whatever he has, you know. So it's a bit of a curveball there, you know. So yeah. I won't get too much into the politics involved, but so Damo against Renzo. This is, I know Renzo has had a lot of big matches, but this is a huge match for Renzo to, if it is going on last, if it is the main event, even if it's not, but if it is, it makes it even that much bigger, because we have Renzo defending his championship against Damo on a big Belfast show. This takes a lot of trust from the likes of Joe to put him in this position.
Yeah.
You know, I think it just shows the strength that Renzo has, and the run that he's been on. In my opinion, he has been probably the workhorse of Irish wrestling over the last year or so, maybe two. He's really putting in the graft and the grind, and he always puts on a good showing, and he seems to be enjoying himself as well out there, you know, whereas maybe before it was a bit forced, and he was too conscious of what he was doing, where now he's doing it. And like Renzo to me is what I was saying about Sam. You love to hate him. Like I love to hate Renzo, and I know a lot of other fans do. And I think he's done some great stuff for the NLW Championship, and I think the NLW Championship has done great stuff for him. With that, but do we see a new champion if Renzo gets through Danhausen on the Saturday night? If this is an NLW Championship match, if he is facing Damo in the main event, do we see a new champion at the end of this show?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I think this match is being done. I think you have to, if he's doing a Danhausen match on a Saturday, you need to do something to kind of legitimize him again on the Sunday, to kind of bring him back into like, he's done this, like he's the guy who can do this, but like he's also somebody we're looking for the forward, he can be taken seriously as your future heel, whatever, main antagonist. So I think by doing something with Damo, obviously with the size discrepancy as well, it's going to show a different layer to him, that he can be vicious or he can be calculating and whatnot. It's again to kind of change perceptions of him, so he's not just a character, a comedy guy who's been rolling around with Sem for a year. I think it'd be good if Damo won it, because then that means you're going to see Damo more often. But again, he's traveling from Florida and he's got different dependencies as well. So I think you'll likely see him sort of schmoz with Renzo retaining, like scarpering away, and then Damo standing tall at the end, like giving a good go home promo, and we'll get him next time here, Belfast. Like that kind of shtick. I think there'll be, again, as we touched on earlier, maybe a banana peel type finish where there's outside shenanigans with somebody, maybe somebody from the Kings or from elsewhere, somebody else coming in.
There is just a comment in the chat there saying that the sanity match, I wasn't overly aware of this, but the winner of the sanity match got to choose the stipulation for this match.
Okay.
So it looks like there could be a stip here, and Damo gets to pick that stip. With Damo being a baby face as well, it wouldn't surprise me if he said, "I'm just going to beat you in a one-on-one match." Like,
yeah, and I think the Damo was in that 6-man tag on the Friday as well, where the winner's been a triple threat, which then means something as well. So
yeah.
So anyway, there's more machinations and possible ramifications from that. So I just don't see Renzo. I'm assuming he's gonna. Well, I don't know. I think a weekend where Renzo beats Danhausen and Damo and one weekend be pretty good for Irish wrestling.
It would set him up to be a bit of a powerhouse.
That's assuming that you've got plans for him, and he's assuming he's going to be pushed further.
Yeah, like the trajectory that he's on, he's potentially OTT main event challenging for the championship within the next year, based on his current trajectory. He's known now to the fans. Everyone knows who he is, what he's about. He has the character down. He has the promos down. He's out there doing the promos as well, which is one thing that some people just aren't doing. I always commend people who do take the time to do promos, even if they don't go out, even if they don't work, or the horse share, or the promoter says, "Oh, it's not good enough," or "It's not what we want to do." You should still be doing them, you know.
More than anything, just shows you take yourself seriously, and you're not just here to play wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many people who want to play wrestler. Too many people think what they do is important without putting the effort in. That's a fact.
There's too many people, and it's more a case when it comes to import. It's very hard to get them to do that promo as well, because you're chasing them because they're not there. You're saying, "Oh, can you do this? Can you send this to me? We need you to do this, or we'd like you to do this, or get this over the hype the match, or whatever." You know, where it's easier to get the people who are actually here, but still, like you still be doing them. It should be, in my opinion, and again, that's all it is. It's my opinion. You should be doing them without having to be asked to do them. They should be like, do it. This is what I put together. Okay, that's good, but maybe can you throw this in, or add this in, or talk about this, or speak to this, or, you know.
But also on Renzo's promos, to be fair to him, it's not just character shtick where it's kind of lazy tropes or whatever. There's actual. He's serious. Every promo, regardless of what he's going to do, you can interpret it in a very serious way. Like even this Danhausen, like he talks about the very evil, very nice, but his promo is quite menacing, and for the match, he takes himself seriously. He presents himself seriously. Too many people are quite eager to, even when they do promos, are just doing cheap, lazy Irish kind of cliches, and they think that's okay, and that's a character. But like you're pigeonholing yourself from your own laziness, in my view, by doing that. And he goes above and beyond in his effort, so where he can be taken seriously and he can go for crossover matches where he can do comedy on one side, but he can also face Dame on the next. So like he's consistent in his presentation, regardless of what spot he's been put into. His attitude never changes. He's aware of who he is, aware of his character is. He's serious in himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Like if Damo does win here, he is over a fair bit. The talk is still there and it's been there for well over a year now, that he's expected to eventually make the return back to America in some bigger capacity. Now he hasn't done that as of yet. I doubt it's anything to do with that. There's just nothing there from, because I presume there is stuff there from him, like, and it's a case that he just hasn't done it yet, or maybe he's enjoying his time on the indies. But
I don't think he'd be signed by WWE or AEW anyway. I just think the way the rosters are and age profile and things like that, and kind of where do you fit him in? Like when he's Insanity with WWE, that's a kind of a package group type thing where like you could have brought him in with like, I don't know, the YS6 instead of Rowan. That's that kind of role you're filling.
Yeah.
You're like, Eric Rowan's never going to be Eric Rowan on his own doing anything else.
Yeah.
He's very much a specific idea. It's like if something comes up from him in WWE, that's the only way I kind of see him coming in. I don't see him as like, just the way the sports presentation in AEW is, I don't see him yet. Well, maybe he did a spot with AEW before and is very, very good. But I just don't think it's going to be a runner. Like TNA seems like the most obvious landing point in the world for him. He has made appearances, but like, for the life of me, I don't know why he hasn't been signed. Given who's on the roster and the amount of people who are absolute dog shit, and fucking watching paint dry is more entertaining than them. So he's infinitely better than 90% of them. He's infinitely better than pretty much anybody in NWA or MLW. So yeah, he might be just happy enjoying his life and doing the spots that he does.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are that's everything that we've covered. We did go longer on this one. Obviously, we did kind of go back over the last couple of shows as well. And we had Joe on earlier on. So for everyone who's been on the last few nights, thanks for coming on and joining in the chat. Anything else to touch on before we wrap up, Mark?
No, looking forward to seeing Joe. Wishing Avada Kedavra and everybody on this weekend, Thursday night in the comedy. It should be an amazing weekend to go ahead. 4 days. Incredibly exciting, and it's a really cool position to be in for Irish wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a long weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. Just get out there, enjoy it. Don't let a result ruin your night. Enjoy yourselves, and if you see us at a show around, say hello. I always like meeting people, especially people who I chat to online, and I actually don't know who they are. And that's the thing as well. Like, I might know your username, or we might have said something, but I might not know your face. So come up, say hello, introduce yourself, and I'd love to meet you.
Or if you're one of the people who abused me online and then went out of the way to find my LinkedIn and professional profile, come and say hello as well.
I doubt those people are going to be watching this, but however, we might bump into a couple of those people in London, but we say no more. But yeah, guys, thanks very much for joining. Last 3 nights has been good. I have a Barry interview coming out, as I said, over the next couple of days. There might be some more coming from us. Join us next week for a review, or maybe multiple reviews, because we'll have loads to cover. A massive fallout presumably from this, and enjoy the shows if you're going, and we'll see us all soon.